Hi there, my name is Nat, and as promised, on this YouTube channel there'll be different sorts of videos about New Zealand, but this first trip video is actually our traveling around North Island of New Zealand. And when I say our travel, I mean me and my amazing daughter Sophie. We hope that this video will be helpful for those of you who like to travel, who also like to explore new places, who are specifically interested in this amazing, mind-blowing place called New Zealand. And maybe you're also new foreign students here just like us, and you need some tips about your travels and trips. So we left Wellington at about 3:30 in the afternoon. We really hope to be at Taupo Lake at about sunset time, and our today's final destination is Tauranga. So that's for today. Tomorrow and the day after tomorrow we'll explore this part of the North Island a little bit. The thing is, we're time limited, so we don't do Auckland this time and many other amazing places, but this time we just have a couple of days as we have studies at school at the uni. By leaving Wellington on Friday afternoon, we've realized that it's pretty much like any other big city, because you can stand in traffic jams and be ready for an hour and a half or something like that. It felt pretty much like leaving Moscow on Friday afternoon, or any other big city, I guess. Hey there, we're finally in Tauranga, and it took us about 9 hours yesterday of driving, and almost without stops. So the first piece of advice is don't believe GPS. Here in New Zealand, I don't know why, but it shows less time than it actually is, and that's why I have to reschedule pretty much all the trip. So we have just Saturday and Sunday and a little bit of yesterday, but yesterday we just drove here, so I was kind of naive of thinking that we could do so many things. So now I've just replanned everything, but the first thing we'll do is we'll explore Tauranga. Before we do that, a few things about Airbnb and housing and finding an apartment, finding a place to stay here, and in many other places in New Zealand. There are lots of nice places. Here we stayed in this charming little house, and there's a nice, super sweet cat. So let's explore Tauranga. The reason why we look around here is not just because I'm driving and I need to see what's going on, but also because the houses are quite interesting in Tauranga, and different styles is like the exhibition of different houses. Tauranga is located in the northern part of New Zealand, and as well as in many other places around the country, it also experiences some seismic activity. And there are a couple of volcanoes around the area, mostly sleeping though, but still. This beach, for example, is named after one of them, Mount Maunganui. New Zealand is heaven for coffee lovers and those who like sweets, and Tauranga is not an exception. While beaches around the city center area can be quite busy, there are a lot of nice, quiet places around Tauranga, so you can drive for like 20 minutes and find some of them. Honestly speaking, there is an endless number of amazing places around this area, as well as around most of the other areas in New Zealand. And unfortunately, we just had a couple of days, but still. Talking about waterfalls, the next stop was Owharoa Falls. I hope I pronounced it properly.
To the ones that you hear, but you're not, 'cause the dreams bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones of the day, toast to the ones that we lost in the way, 'cause the drinks bring back all the memories, and the memories bring back you. There's a time that
So here we are going to Hobbiton finally. This is Sunday morning, our third day but second full day. and we planned to actually get to that mount in Tauranga, but it was quite cloudy, and we were happy about it, honestly speaking, because we wanted to sleep a little bit. So now we're going to Hobbiton, and after Hobbiton, I guess we'll check Taranaki waterfall. But anyway, we'll see how it goes with time and with New Zealand driving. Very special, because we need to plan the time. So hello Tolkien and Peter Jackson lovers and fans. Before coming to Hobbiton, I imagined it to be more like an outside museum with everything sort of fake but nice. But it appeared to be, I mean, I understand that that's not real, but when you're there, it feels so much real. Because pretty much everything is real and true. Like, for example, some gardens, and there are people who actually grow these trees and take care of the vegetables growing there. So it feels like a real little village with this life going on there. Pretty magical, you know, butterflies flying. You see some smoke from the different houses and people going here and there. So 39 hobbit holes were created, and an artificial tree which was made out of steel and silicon. Well, the funny thing is that's a real farm, and it was a real farm when Peter Jackson found it. So he persuaded the owner to let it be the movie scene, which it was and still is as a tour place. So this can be a message to all of the land owners all over the world who take care of their magic places. Maybe one day one movie director will come to your place and ask to film something like The Lord of the Rings there. Hi there. So a couple of more tips from the road. Gas stations don't happen very often here in New Zealand, so don't repeat my mistakes. Make sure you, as soon as you see one, refill your car, because otherwise you'll be like me, stopping strangers, asking for help, and trying to find a gas station. The thing is, it's also not everywhere you can get cell coverage and mobile internet. So when I was trying to find the closest one, because you just drive for like 3 hours and there's no gas station around, and then your car is like, you don't have petrol. So I was like, Sophie's sleeping, we're in the middle of nowhere literally, and there's no gas station. We found it finally. And the funny thing is that we found it near Taupa Lake, because it's Sunday and we're on our way back to Wellington. To be honest, we'll check Taranaki Falls, hopefully, luckily. But anyway, the funny thing is that we didn't really plan to stop at Taupa Lake this time, but ironically, as we were out of gas and petrol, we stopped, and it's fantastic. So I think but one trip will finally happen here. We'll come here again, because this is just stunning. I'll show you. The drive from Taupo Lake to Taranaki Falls trek is about 1 hour and a half, but the closer you get, the more terrific views you see in front of you. Taranaki Falls are located in Tongariro National Park, and the crazy thing about traveling around New Zealand is it really doesn't matter how many days you have, because you still cannot see everything. New Zealand is so tiny, but it takes, I don't know, years to explore, and that's the awesome thing about it. That's the sad thing about it, because there are always more things to see. The trek itself is in 2 parts, an upper and a lower, which together form a loop with the falls around the halfway mark. Hey guys, we're back home, happy and safe. A few things for you to know if you also plan this kind of similar trips. The feelings about the trip. Actually, the things that impressed me and my daughter the most were not the things we expected to happen. The first one was the sky over Taupo Lake that we didn't really like. My plan to stop there for sunset was too naive, so we didn't do that, but we were there by the time when it was very dark, and the sky above that lake was something that I will never ever forget, and I will be willing always to see it again, because that's outstanding. I've never seen anything like that. It's literally, you see the Milky Way, you see so many stars. Honestly, that's mind-blowing. That's something you cannot plan. That's this random magic that just happens when you travel. And that's why you should do it too, because that's something you cannot Google anywhere or, you know, even if you see the most beautiful pictures, it's never the way it is in reality. And it's one of the most amazing experiences of my life. So you should really do that. Another thing was, actually, Hobbiton was something I didn't expect to be so awesome, because I thought it would be quite touristy and mainstream, and I just did it because we've actually watched Lord of the Rings and Hobbits a couple of times, or even like 3, I don't know how many times. So me and my daughter were quite familiar with the story, so we wanted to see it, but I thought it would be, yeah, kind of like not as amazing, and it really wasn't. And they give you an extra drink in the end, which is also fantastic. And one more thing, it was actually Taranaki Falls and the way to Taranaki Falls, which you could also see on the video, but it's really like, I didn't expect it to be that awesome. I didn't expect the nature to be so fantastic on the way there, while we were driving, while we were walking to the falls itself. It's really cool. Just a couple of things for you to know about driving. Driving in New Zealand is, well, first of all, you drive on the left. That's really important, especially for those of us who come from the European part of the world, and for many other places where it's the opposite way. So it's actually a bit tricky, even though I love driving, even though it's quite like easy for me now, but still at the beginning, and even not only at the beginning, sometimes you really like, when you are not thinking about the road, you want to turn the other way. And the ways you look is also a bit different. And another thing I would suggest, to plan your trip the way that you won't be driving at night, because it's kind of difficult. I was driving in the dark part of the day both ways, because we drove from Wellington to Tauranga and then back. So on the way there, I was driving at night. I mean, not at night, but when it was dark, for about like 6 hours, and it was really difficult because it's very monotonous. There are no lights on the road, and yeah, it's a bit difficult if you're the only driver like me, because my daughter was sleeping all the time, almost all the time. And a couple of practical things about prices, for example, that you may be interested in. So approximate prices for example, renting a car, because we did it, we rent a car, it's not our car. It was about, well, again, that depends on where you find it, but in our case, it was about 300 New Zealand dollars for 4 days. Airbnb, because I just like Airbnb. That's an awesome chance to see different houses all over the world. So Airbnb, our place was quite okay. It was about 60 New Zealand dollars per night, but you can find all sorts of different places, and the prices will be different depending on how many of you are and depending on what you like and what you want. And about gasoline, so we've spent, in the whole trip, we've spent 140 New Zealand dollars for that. But again, that depends on what car you have. We had a tiny little Mazda, so in our case that was quite okay. Talking about Hobbiton, that we've also visited, it's 84 per adult and 42 per child. But that depends on which tour you take, because in our case that was an ordinary tour without food. It was from Shire, I'm not sure how to pronounce it properly, but anyway, it was from exactly the place, because there are other options from Rotorua and from some other places. So depending on the ticket, but all the info is on the website. It's just for you to know that it can be about that price, for about 120 for a child and for an adult. So we hope that this information will be helpful for you, and the next trip that we will have will be on the South Island, and I'm super excited about it. So if you like it, that's really cool. If this video will be helpful for you, that's also amazing. Stay tuned, and beams of peace. See you.